Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we sit down with real investors, doing real deals, and uncover what's actually happening in today's market. Today, we got Mason Pilkington in the building, running Peak Buyers, and the name tells you what this conversation is all going to be about. Now, everybody in the wholesaling space, they're obsessed about the acquisition side. Let's say when it comes to finding deals, locking up contracts, the cold call grind. Now, Mason, he built his business on the side which most operates ignore, the buyer side, the dispo side, the part where the business the part of the business where the assignment fees actually shows up in your account or it doesn't. So today we're going to be diving a little bit more about how exactly he got into the space and a little bit more about Mason's journey. So Mason, thank you so much for hopping on this call with us.
Of course.
Yes. And for the people who do not know who you are yet, can you give us a small introduction about what exactly you do and a little bit about your business?
So my name is Mason Pilkington. I am located here in Houston, and I've been wholesaling for about 4 years now. I had some ups and downs. We do pretty much everything virtually. Sometimes I'll go in person if it's needed, but a lot of the stuff that we're doing is virtual completely.
Nice. And how did you get into this business? Like, what made you start a wholesaling business?
My mom's been in real estate for 25 plus years. And so she helped build one of the biggest programs here in Houston. And so I got started through kind of like a cold introduction into it where, we had rental properties, we had different properties that my mom was working on, and I'd go out there, help out, get paid a little. And then later on, I kind of put together that, the trips that we had gone on were because of these rental properties, and the different luxuries we did have in life were because of the real estate aspect. And so I kind of got more integrated with the whole, real estate side of everything. And eventually, I went to an event, met somebody who's like, hey, you should try this wholesaling thing. And I said, what is it? And then I jumped into it full force, spent $800 on a really expensive, system, everything. And, just went full force in it, went 20 plus thousand in debt before I got the first deal closed. And, I was terrified. I said, hey, I know this is something that works for other people, and it hadn't worked for me at the time. And so I was very hesitant on what to do, and, if I should move forward, if I should just get a regular job. And then I said, you know what, let me just keep going. I'm not going to pay off 20,000 in debt by working, a normal job that's not in corporate America or anything like that. And so I kept going, eventually closed a few deals, and paid it all off, and so that's kind of the short version of everything and kind of how I got started.
Amazing. And how long would you say did it take time for you to close that first deal? I know for getting the first deal is the toughest.
Man, that one took so long. I would say at the time I did have to step in and I took jobs. I was a waiter for 2 different restaurants. I did odd jobs, just different things to get by. And it took me, honestly, I didn't close the first deal. I started in February 22. I did not close the first deal until I believe August 23 or something like that. It was 1.5 to 2 years, one of those two. So it took me a long time. And so it was also hard because getting into it, as an entrepreneur, you have to be disciplined. You have to have a high work ethic. And honestly, you have to see yourself in certain ways better than you were before. And so you have to kind of have this delusional mindset about everything too. So it took me about 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah, amazing. Now, if you don't mind me asking, like, can you walk me through your first deal you disposed or for someone else? Like, whose deal was it? Like, how much did you make? And what exactly did it teach you about the side of business that actually has the leverage?
Yeah, I mean, the first one I started cold calling, and I cold called probably about 200,000 numbers before I got the first one. And, it's that the part of I sucked at it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just over time grew and got better. And that first one, I literally just hopped on the phone, talked to somebody, and they said, yeah, this is my daughter's property. I want her to be the one that handles this. It's her property. And then I talked to the father, and he's like, yeah, you're going to talk to her. She's going to be the one that does it. She'll run stuff by me, and all that stuff. And so I had no clue what I was doing. So I immediately went, gave her an offer and said, hey, this deal was out in Beaumont, Texas, and it's not, the hottest market. It's not the most expensive market. And I said, after, everything, I'm not too familiar, but I'll pick it up for $16,000, $139. And she goes, okay, what next? And I'm like, oh crap, what do I do now? And it's like, I ended up, I'm like, all right, let me talk with my partner, just double check everything. I don't have a partner. Yeah. And so I talked to my partner, and we decided we're going to do it. Right. And then I sent her the contract, sent her all the information, didn't go out to the property once until we were already under contract. I ended up, that one was a JV. And at the time, I also had another property that came literally at the same time. And it was also in Beaumont. And the buyer that bought the first property actually bought it for, I think, 38,000 or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Or I think it was 36. So it was about a 20K spread. And I 50-50'd with somebody and we got it done, wiped our hands from it. And then that same buyer ended up buying the other property for 38. And we got that one for, I think, 30. And so it was pretty interesting, pretty nice because, if you go without a deal for a year and a half, 2 years, and you're just, sitting there calling every single day and there's no progress, you kind of get discouraged sometimes. So it showed me that all it takes is one call, one person, and the rest of it, it can just go down and wipe everything clean, and actually show you what you're able to do.
Amazing. Can you paint us a picture of like what exactly peak buyers look like right now? Like the team size, the deal flows, what markets are you operating in?
Yeah. So far right now, I had at most, I think 3 or 4 people on the team. And that was 2 cold callers and acquisitions and myself. And since then, I've descaled the business. I stepped away for a bit. And now it's just me. And then I have a VA that helps out whenever I need it. And we're just in Houston. And right now we have about 15 at minimum on profit for the month. And so that's pretty much it. We're still doing everything virtual. We're scaling up. We're targeting pre-foreclosures, or actually pre-foreclosures, in terms of like people that are just behind on their banknotes and other people that have been in the system, and certain leads that we're pulling from different sources.
Nice. And if you don't mind me asking, like how big would you say is your buyer list? Like, and the main question is like, what's the difference between the total number on your list and the number you can actually say, what is a real buyer?
So I probably have, I would say, roughly about 600 buyers that I've talked to, that I've vetted. Well, I can't say vetted, but that I've talked to at some point that have said, hey, I'm interested in buying, this is my criteria. Out of those 600, probably about 20 or 25, 30. And it just depends on what type of asset it is. If it's commercial, if it's land, if it's single family, whatever it is. Yeah. And so, you can talk to 100 and all you need really is just 1 or 2. Or 5 if you're lucky, right? And those are people that are actually buying. And anytime I get a deal, I immediately send it to, if it's land, I send it to one guy, and then I'll send it to a few others if he's not interested. And so out of the 600 plus that we have of buyers that I've talked to, very few of them are actually buying now, especially because the market's changed and everything. Even if they were buying previously, you got to consistently talk to them, build that relationship with them, because if not, you will go and you will find that a lot of these people that are buying now, they get bombarded with these deals that just don't make sense. The wholesaler is JVing, they're daisy chaining the deal, and they're not upfront about it.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the ones that I have now under contract, it's from a JV. It's a JV deal. But if you're upfront, and this buyer's okay with it, it's fine. As long as you're upfront and you tell them about it. But a lot of people don't.
Got it. And now this is something which a lot of wholesalers complain about, right? Like getting the right buyers are harder than ever, especially in 2026, like tighter margins, lower closes, a lot of the renegotiations happen. Now, from your perspective, do you think that's actually true, or is it just operators with bad deals blaming buyers for not buying them?
I think it's a little bit of both. Some buyers, they aren't actually buying. They'd like to buy, but they're not buying. There's a difference between the want and the thought of buying and then closing the deal. And so I would say it's a mix of both, because that's on the buyer side. And then the seller side, as a wholesaler or whatever it may be, JVing on a deal, it's different, because a lot of these people are bringing deals to these buyers that just don't make any sense. Their rehab's too low, their ARV's too high, their asking's too high, and then they want, non-refundable or like different terms that just don't make sense. So it's a little bit of all of it. Honestly, it's a mix.
Got it. And you mentioned something about daisy chain before, like a lot of real buyers in this industry. I'm pretty sure they're getting hammered with deals that are in even like mostly daisy chain contracts, properties that has been locked up at least by 3 other wholesalers before. Now, I know this kind of like caused a trust between wholesalers and buyers, which gets broken in the way. Now, what would you say, what is the wholesale to buy relationship actually fixable? Like, or as the industry burnt that bridge too good as of right now?
I mean, no, it's 100% fixable. You just have to be upfront, and ask the right questions. A great example, I had a land deal that I had contracted from somebody, and we picked it up and we told the buyer straightforward, hey, this is what we're asking. This is my deal. And I was very upfront with him. I didn't waste his time. I don't send him anything that doesn't make sense. I understood his buy box and I respected his time over everything. And because of that, we were able to get it closed. And it's still, buyers are good if you're good. It's a symbiotic relationship. If you're not bringing them good quality deals, you're wasting their time. You're just sending them everything. If they're okay with that, do it. Because I've done that before where I've been like, hey, what would you buy a property on this street for? Or, even gave them the address, if I trust them enough, gave them, the rehab photos, all the other information. And I've just said, hey, what would you buy for this property? And they've said, hey, I'll buy it for 220. I'm like, all right, cool. Buyers said that they want to be at 225. I just got to get them down 5K to make it work and just get the deal done. But realistically, probably like 10K. And so it's like, if I go, and say, hey, tell the seller I'll get it for 210, that's a 10K spread. So it's all about just respecting the buyers and understanding who they are, what they want, and what their goals are. Don't just do the surface level talk. What are you buying? Where are you buying? Awesome. I'll send you whatever. No, talk to them, get to know them, understand what their goals are, how many they want to buy each month, where they want to go. And so that you can provide that for them and actually give them service.
Makes sense. Now, final hot take. In 2026, who do you think actually holds the leverage in a wholesale deal? Would you say it's the wholesaler who got the contract, or the seller who can walk away, the buyer who has the cash, or the title company that controls the closing?
So I've seen it work every single one of those ways, where if it's, good enough of a deal, wholesaler has the leverage. If, there's title issues or something, title company has a leverage because they're the ones that are actually managing it. I've had deals that should have fell out that just didn't because of the title company. And then buyers too. It's like if the buyer has enough deal flow, they don't need. And honestly, it's whoever doesn't need the most in terms of buyers or sellers, or even a title company at that too. So whoever just doesn't need the deal is the one that's going to win. Because if you need it, you're going to be, hey, let me, I'll do 225, and then, somebody came in at 230. I'll do 232, and then it's like, you need the deal, you're going to lose money, etc. So it's whoever just does not need the deal.
Makes sense. Well, Mason, we're almost towards the end of the show. And I know this is something which I want to ask. So it's like a small game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like asking questions because you're inside the buyer's head almost every single day. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be throwing you a list of things that wholesalers do when they're trying to sell a deal to the buyer. And I want you to like rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on how much they actually move a real buyer to write the check. Got it? So 10 meaning like, so on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning it closes the buyers every single time. 5 mainly something like solid, basic professional move. 1 is actively annoying, makes you look like an amateur. Okay. Now, a couple of questions would be like, what exactly wholesalers do, especially when it comes to pitching a reel? And let's just rank them. Now, first one, mass email blast to the whole buyer list.
I don't like that. I'd say probably a 3 or so. It's just too spammy. They get too many of them. You want to get somebody to buy your deal, talk to them. You could send it out, get feedback. It's great if you're at that scale and you're known. But if not, and you're just starting, you have to call them, Yep. So it's a good intro. Probably say 3.
Yep. What about personal text with the exact details to the specific buyers?
I think that's the best thing you can do. That's probably like a 10. I've done that where I've said, hey, I have this property over here in your buy box. This is all the info. Let me know what your thoughts are. We're asking this amount. Taking higher or, best offer by X date.
Makes sense. What about showing up to a property with the buyer in person?
It's great. As long as you've been upfront about the whole thing, the whole transaction with the seller, the buyer, I've had people where, and I've even done it where the seller, whenever I first started, the seller didn't know. And I told them that the buyer was construction or my rehab guy, whatever. And that's great. That's not a problem. I'd say showing up though in person with the buyer is, that's the best thing you can do. So 10.
Amazing. What about sending a proper deal package? Let's say like the photos, the ARV comms, the rehab estimate, the neighborhood data.
I'd say that's probably an 8. And I only say an 8 because buyers typically they're going to do their own comps anyways. So like I will send some some comps
Mhm.
every now and then, just to kind of make it easier on them. But I know a lot of them don't look at it. They're going to go do their own research, look at their own stuff, formulate their own number. So I'd probably say an 8. It's still great. That's awesome. You want to be as professional and straightforward as you can, so you don't waste their time. You respect their time and respect them.
Yep. What about adding a fake urgency? Like, let's say I have 3 other buyers already ready to buy this property.
I don't like that. I think it's a smokescreen.
Mhm.
Typically, you say that whenever you don't have other people interested. And a real buyer, somebody that's a veteran, will say, "All right, sell it to them." They don't
Mhm.
need the deal, so they'll say,
Yeah.
"Sell it to them." Let it go. So I'd probably say like a 2, honestly, a 2 on that, because there's no need. If they're
Mhm.
real and if you're straightforward, it's just it makes you look like you're making fake urgency. You can word it, you can have that word verbiage in a different way so that it gets the same point across. Like, hey, I've sent this out to a few people. Here's what we're asking for. We're just asking best offer by this date. We're going to accept one by then.
Got it. What about asking for proof of funds upfront? Because I know this is something a lot of like wholesalers do ask them whether, just to check whether the buyer is legit or not.
Yeah, I've done that, and it's good. I'd probably say like a 7 or so, and I
Mhm.
only say that because you want to know the people are real. You want to know they're legit. A real buyer is going to say, "Hey, here's my POF, or my, bank statement, whatever it is, right? Here you go. Here's some other deals I've closed." So it's not bad to ask. I also would recommend, if you're going to do that, as soon as somebody shows interest in the property, or really at all, vet them, like find them on Facebook, find them on Instagram, and just talk and ask, if you have somebody in the industry, say, hey, like, who have you done deals with? Like, what other wholesalers, or who do you know? Or, oh, we have mutual friends, this person.
Yeah.
And just kind of vet them personally, along with, asking them for a proof of funds. A proof of funds, like if I come straight to you and I say, hey, I want, show me your proof of funds. Sometimes they might get a little,
Yeah.
ego trip or something, and they might get a little turned off and say something or another. I think it's a great thing to do. I just think you
Mhm.
have to add more to it.
Okay. So 7 or 6?
I'd say 6, 7, 7.
7. Okay. And the last one would be negotiating the assignment fee with the buyer in real time.
Like over the phone?
Yeah. I mean, over the phone, or yeah, if you're meeting in real, even better.
I'd say, yeah, if you're meeting in person or over the phone, I mean, that's honestly the best thing you can do. I mean, I'd say it's better than text in some ways. It just depends on the person and how they are. If they're gonna, mess around, they're not gonna be straightforward, I would say over text. I've had
Mhm.
buyers that have, said something and then, just tried to be like, call my bluff or something along those lines. And I just do those over text pretty much. But over the phone's the best thing you can do. You just
Mhm.
have to be prepared before the call and understand what exactly the outcome is, where you need the numbers, and say, be okay with walking away. So I'd probably say an 8 on that.
Makes sense. Well, thank you so much for playing this game with us, Mason. So,
Of
last question
course.
would be like, let's say when a wholesaler watching this right now, sitting on a signed contract, no buyer, no relationship, and maybe 14 days on the clock just before the seller walks.
Mhm.
What's the one thing they need to do tomorrow to give that deal a chance? Not a list, just like one thing which you would suggest they should do.
Call as many buyers as you can. Just put it out in front of people, get feedback.
Well, guys, you heard it from Mason. And thank you so much, Mason, for hopping on the show
Of
with
course,
us.
of course.
And where can people get in touch with you? Let's say if they ever want to maybe JV a deal with you, maybe just to get to know more about your journey.
They can message me on Instagram. It's going to be Mason, Mason, Pilkington, Pilkinton. You can message me on Instagram. That's pretty much the only platform I use right now. So I'd say that's where they could.
Amazing. Well, we'll make sure to tag the Instagram ID in the video over here so that, guys, if you're listening to this, do not hesitate to reach out to Mason. Obviously, this, like, especially when it comes to wholesaling, it's not an easy thing. These things do take time. And obviously, having the right connections and having the right people guide you along the way is actually what makes this entire journey interesting and better. Now, that's real talk for you guys. Mason, once again, brother, I appreciate you for coming on. This was a buyer side conversation the community actually needed. Any last
Mhm.
words before we wrap up the call?
I mean, only thing I would add is, keep going, keep your head down on the grind. Don't let other people tell you you're crazy, or that it's, a foolish dream or something that wasn't put on your heart. If God didn't put it on your heart, then, it wouldn't be worth it. So He put it on your heart, go for it, do it. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out, because I know the one thing that got me to where I am now is having people in the industry that were ahead of me and just straightforward mentors. People, if it was YouTube, if it was in person, whoever it was, having people in front of me that I could ask questions to and get answers. So reach out, make connections, and just continue to sharpen your iron.
Exactly. Well said. Guys, go connect with Mason and Peak Buyers. I'll post a link in the description. Now, if this episode hit you differently, share it, send it to someone who actually needs to hear it. And till then, we'll catch you guys on the next episode of Real Talk, where we're going to coming up with new stories, new guests, and a whole new insight. Thank you so much once again, Mason. Have